off at the top. All right, fellas, what is going on? We are live about an hour early. We're going to do a regular live stream. For those of you guys watching after the fact, this is our patron-only live stream. This is where we break down, last-minute injury updates, and our patrons obviously get their start set questions answered. If you guys want to join and be a part of these, there's still 2 or 3 weeks left in the season for you to get a lot of value, and of course tons more over there. Patreon.com/fantasy stock exchange. We're going to start with the injuries because there is quite a bit of them. We're going to try and go as quickly as we possibly can, especially with the guys that are out and just kind of how it affects everybody else. So I'm going to start. Let's go through the guys that are officially ruled out already. We have Lamar Jackson, who would have played today at 4 o'clock. He has been ruled out. I believe it's a foot injury that he's dealing with. Yep. And his backup, Tyler Huntley, is going to start in place of him by the sounds of it, according to what Ian Rappaport has kind of said, even though he left last week's game with a concussion. And obviously Huntley, probably not a guy that you want to throw into your lineup, I would say, coming with the re-injury risk potentially of him getting another concussion or concussion-like symptoms.
Top 20-ish level play. Like, I'm not getting overly optimistic about him, but I mean, given his rushing floor, assuming that he's healthy, like you understand that he's probably going to be in that back end quarterback 2 type of range. Also with Lamar Jackson,
I'll give you some options here real quick, just to see who you would play Tyler Huntley around. Would you play Jared Goff or Tyler Huntley?
Jared Goff.
Would you play Daniel Jones or Tyler Huntley?
Daniel Jones.
Aaron Rodgers or Tyler Huntley?
Oh, Aaron Rodgers way higher for me.
Okay. I already had Brock Purdy ahead of him as well. Taylor Heineke, Derek Carr, Ryan Tannehill. Is that where you're kind of putting Huntley, maybe?
I have him over Derek Carr. Heineke, I need to raise a little bit. Purdy, I forgot to raise before the Thursday night.
So for me, he's at 18. So for those of you guys that are like, oh, I'm streaming this week, I had Mike White or something. Should I go grab Tyler Huntley and play him today? I would personally no. Would you rather play Zach Wilson or Tyler Huntley?
Huntley.
You'd rather play Huntley than Wilson?
Without a doubt.
Yeah, I mean, Zach Wilson's obviously very risky, but one thing I will say, and I tweeted this out about Zach Wilson, the only time he's played a top 10 or a top 15 matchup this year was against the Dolphins, QBR. And he had like a 99.8 QBR. He only threw 21 pass attempts in that game. He had like 200 yards and a touchdown. Had a pretty solid game because every other time he's played the Patriots twice, the Broncos, the Packers, and the I can't remember what the other team was, but they're all top 10 DVOA defenses. So unfortunately for him, he didn't get to play the Bears like when Mike White made his first start, an easy matchup like that. It is really unfortunate when that kind of stuff happened for Zach Wilson, but you probably can't trust the guy, most likely. I would say you're probably not in that spot. Kind of alluded to it already, but Mike White is out for the game. Zach Wilson will be starting. That affects Garrett Wilson for the most part. Obviously, that's going to lower him in my rankings. What's up?
Side note, you mentioned a foot injury for Lamar. I believe it's an MCL sprain.
Oh, is it a knee injury? Right. Yeah. It is a knee injury. So, Zach Wilson, where did you move? Like, I had Garrett Wilson at 10. Where is he now for you?
17.
17. Okay, so you moved him down below Mike Williams, Chris Godwin, I'm assuming.
Yeah, so if I check my rankings right now, so obviously I got locked in with Ayuk at 16, which, by the way, big pain. Him and Metcalf were pretty disappointing.
I mean, Metcalf made up for it a little bit at the end in PPR leagues. He didn't have the worst game. I think he like 12.5 points or something like that. It's not great, but it's not the worst.
Who ended up scoring more between him and Lockett? Because I know they were fucking
I think they were quite close. I think Lockett had 13.5 and Metcalf had 12.5 or something like that. I believe Lockett had more.
Lockett had 7 for 68. Metcalf had 7 for 55.
And we had a bet Metcalf versus Lockett.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's brutal. Anyways, I have Garrett Wilson also at 17, just behind Lockett at 16. McLaurin, DeAndre Hopkins, Chris Godwin, Mike Williams, Metcalf, who locked in at 11 for me, Jalen Waddle at 10. Those type of guys. I got to move T. Higgins up. I don't even know where he is right now.
I'm leaving him for now. I don't think he's going to play.
I do. He was full participant on Friday.
Oh, he was full? I thought he was limited. That's my fault.
He was full on Friday. I think he's going to play, to be honest. And I can kind of transition into that. Both him and Tyler Boyd were full participants on Friday. This is the Bucs injury report. It is absurd. Jamel Dean's out. Vita Vea's out. So that's 2 of probably our best 4 defensive players. Antoine Winfield, SMB, Mike Edwards, all questionable. So there's a possibility that we have just Carlton Davis out of our starting secondary left. Like, it's going to be like the Bengals are going to hang a number of points if we got all these guys dealing with stuff and or out.
I get it. It's in Tampa, but man, that 3.5.
We don't play that well at home, by the way. So that's not like, if I had to guess, like, as far as like the Vegas formula for like how much our home field advantage is worth relative to other teams, it's not a lot. It's probably like 1 point.
Which is pretty crazy. That's why I'm like, I think Cincinnati should be like favored
I
by
already made a
closer to
bet
like
on them.
5.5,
I think they should be
6.
at least 6-point favorites.
Yeah, 3.5 is pretty crazy to me.
3.5 is way
Uh,
too low of a spread. They're going to beat us bad, I think.
yeah, it's
Maybe
gonna
not
be
like
ugly.
how bad the 49ers beat us, but probably by 10 points.
Yeah, which by the way, the 49ers looked really dominant defensively. Brock Purdy made his decisions. I'm just still holding out for when Brock Purdy faces like a top defense to see how he like adjusts to that, because right now it kind of seems like the Jimmy Garoppolo effect where, he's in the system, he's in rhythm, he's executing the game plan, but when you have, a psychopath on the other end, similar to what D'Amico Ryan's doing with the 49ers defense, I really want to see how he adjusts, which, by the way, I'm not sure if you saw that one play that D'Amico Ryan's had in terms of his coverages, but he basically had Fred Warner tracking across the field. So it looked like it was a cover one robber. Hufanga was in the box. They had one single high, and it looked like man across the board. So Gino's like, okay, we got man-to-man. We got cover one. Then they fucking left Fred Warner as a cover two corner, flipped it to a cover two look mid snap, and he rallied and tackled and stopped them short of the sticks. But it's just like, first of all, the defensive coordinator being such a psychopath to like put that type of coverage into his playbook
to be able to do that. Like,
and then Fred Warner, being a
yeah,
freak
exactly.
athlete.
What's his name? Monty Kiffin used to do crazy shit with Derek Brooks all the time. You need a linebacker that can do stuff like that. It's very rare that you can have players that are that interchangeable. And Rondé Barber and Derek Brooks were used in psychopathic ways for blitz packages and coverage things. Like Derek Brooks would play like middle thirds like all the time.
Yeah.
And then he would also blitz. And then they'd have Derek Brooks on a middle third at the line of scrimmage. He'd have to backpedal all the way to a middle third, and Rondé would come screaming off the edge.
And
One of the most famous plays in Buccaneers history is the strip sack he had against Donovan McNabb in the NFC Championship in 2002. Not the interception, the strip sack. And the reason he got the interception was because he thought he was coming again. It was like a whole like mind fuck. Anyways, let's rattle off some injuries here. Kenny Pickett is doubtful with a concussion. Mitch Trubisky's probably going to play. It's a negligible difference. Freiermuth and Deontay are about the same with both quarterbacks. This is interesting for today's game, the one that kicks off at 1. Both Kenny Moore and Cameron Dantzler are both going to be out for the game. They're the best corners on both teams outside of Gilmore. So I would say with whoever's playing in the slot most, if they move Jefferson around or if they get Thielen in the slot, there's a good chance whoever the slot receiver is in this game probably has a decent stat line. If Gilmore is going to shadow Jefferson, which I believe he's expected to, then we're probably not looking at a great, type of Jefferson game, but I think Thielen could have a big day in this one. So Thielen's not a terrible flex play if you guys are looking for one.
Do they usually deploy Gilmore and shadow?
They don't, but I believe they did last week. I can't remember who the Colts played last week, but I think it was a corner wide receiver matchup.
Because I do remember Ian talking about, because obviously I mentioned it in the wide receiver video, but I just couldn't recall. So if Jefferson moved to the slot, Gilmore's
They'll
going to
move him around. I don't think he'll be on him permanently the entire time. So Jefferson should be just fine. But Claypool's out for this game. We have a 3-stack of Texans out for this game. Dameon Pierce, Cooks, and Collins are all out. So Chris Moore hive is going crazy. I'm not too excited about it. I'm probably going to rank him as a top 45 wide receiver, but I ain't going crazy and starting him over legitimate options. If you have a Deontay Johnson versus Chris Moore decision, I would still probably go with a guy like Deontay Johnson.
If you're in a 3 wide receiver start, 2 flex type of league, and you need somebody to fill in for your flex spot that, I wouldn't even describe Moore as safe, because the Texans offense as a whole is not safe. But somebody that you think, okay, you know what, he's going to get the majority of his team's targets, might work from a negative game script. Sure, at that point. But if we're realistically relying upon Chris Moore being a top 30, top 35 level play, I am taking the under in that instance any given week.
Yeah, I'll start Chris Moore over George Pickens or Josh Palmer, Darius Slayton, somebody like that. But I'm not going to start him over even Elijah Moore, Adam Thielen, Michael Gallup types. I would rather start over a guy like Chris Moore.
Palmer's actually got relatively decent volume, even with Williams and Allen there, because the team throws the ball 45 times a game.
Right. Yeah.
It's pretty nuts.
The Broncos, we have Sutton and Russ out. Judy not having Russ hurts, even though Russ has been terrible this year. But he had an okay game the last time Rippon played.
He had a good game when Rippon played. I think he had 85 receiving yards, and he might have had a touchdown in that game.
Yeah, not a bad stat line for him. But Sutton, out again, which means, if you're desperate, Hinton's not terrible, and it also makes Greg Dulcich more appealing at tight end as well. Treylon Burks out with a concussion. Don't start Tannehill without Treylon Burks. I would say he's probably not a guy that you want to mess with. And then a couple guys that are listed as questionable that I'm concerned for. First, 2 of them today. Jeff Wilson's listed questionable with the hip injury. Didn't practice Tuesday, Wednesday, and then he limited practice Thursday. If you guys have Jeff Wilson, I probably would expect to be without him. At least that's how I would plan. Unless you are completely screwed and you have no other options, then maybe you can wait on Jeff Wilson. It is a Saturday game, so you should know ahead of time before your other start-sit decisions. But I would personally just be without him. If you have Mostert, I would fire him up. He's probably a top 20 running back this week.
Easily.
It's bad weather. The Dolphins have run the ball 24 times the last 2 weeks. And even though Raheem Mostert's got the majority of those carries and those snaps, they just haven't ran the ball because they've been down in games. It's going to be a sloppy, like snowy, rainy game. I think we're going to see more of a lenience or reliance on the run game.
Did you see how bad the snow is right now in Buffalo?
It's bad. Yeah, it's bad.
insane.
Raheem Mostert's going to probably at least get 15 carries, I would imagine, if not more than that.
There's already jokes on Twitter like because the Dolphins are apparently wearing white in this game. They're like, how is Tiny Tua going to see his wide receivers in the snow?
Yeah. I also saw Liam tweeted out, you know how last year the Buccaneers were one of the highest playoff advanced teams in Best Ball Mania, right? But then they played the Saints in week 15 and the Saints held them to 3 points or whatever. It was like a 9-3 game. And everybody who advanced all those Buccaneers lost all their teams, including myself, because I had so much rostership of those guys last year. Fournette got injured, I believe, in that game as well.
Miami's going to be that team.
And he's like, he thinks Miami's going to be the team this year that everybody advanced a bunch of Tua, a bunch of Jalen Waddle, a bunch of Tyreek Hill, and they're all just going to get sunk in the first week of the playoffs. And I could totally see that happening in a bad game environment. Hopefully that doesn't happen to you guys. Hopefully you're on bye because they were so good that they got you to a bye week. Amari Cooper, also questionable with a hip injury. I think he's going to end up playing. He played through it last week. He's probably going to be fine. But if he's out, DPJ obviously sees a big-time upgrade. And then I'll rattle through these last couple real quick, and then we'll get to the questions. DJ Moore is a game-time decision. Definitely, I would prepare to be without him if you can, because that ankle injury, they almost said high ankle sprain when it happened. But I do think, there's a chance he could play. He was a limited practice on Friday. Then the whole Patriots situation is just totally up in the air. Ramondre Stevenson, limited Friday, but did not practice Wednesday or Thursday. Damian Harris, I believe, was the same thing. Maybe he logged one more limited practice. And then Jacoby Myers is also questionable in that situation. So we have like a whole musical chairs with this Patriots backfield where if Ramondre plays, he's a top 10 running back. If Ramondre doesn't play, Damian Harris is probably top 25 running back. If Damian Harris and Ramondre are both out, then Kevin Harris is probably a top.
Pierre Strong.
Yeah, Kevin Harris and Pierre Strong are both top 36 running backs, I would say. So that's kind of the situation there. I already talked about Boyd and Higgins, so I can skip over that. And then Trevor Lawrence is probably going to play. I had to imagine was limited all week.
If both were out, like I would take Pierre Strong over Harris personally.
It's not a great situation. I think they probably split touches pretty evenly, but they're both like they're like a B-Tech version of like Brian Robinson, Antonio Gibson, probably.
By the way, you mentioned Trevor Lawrence. I'm pretty much going to guarantee he's going to play. They're 2 games back of the division right now. Tennessee hasn't really been playing well recently. Obviously, a tough matchup for the Chargers this week. And if the Jaguars somehow upset the Cowboys this week, the division is well within their own destiny. Like they control their own destiny because they play the Titans and they would only be 1 game behind them. So I do think even if Trevor Lawrence is 80% rest of the way, they are going to play him.
Yeah. Is it me, or do you feel like Zach Wilson's going to play well enough that he's starting again Thursday night against the Jaguars, and we might see some weird Thursday night shit go down?
I think the Jaguars are going to dumpster the Jets on Thursday, to be honest.
I don't. I think the Jets defense is too good.
It's really good, but I do think that the way Trevor Lawrence has been playing,
he's been playing great, but he might get humbled this week, right? Like your defense is no joke either. I think he might come down a peg this week and then be a little bit less, confident going into that Thursday night game. And Zach Wilson hopefully can show something. It's the Detroit Lions. This is the first good matchup you've had with your weapons on the field all season.
I do think that if there's one bet I would place for the Cowboys Jaguars, it would actually be with the over. The way the two offenses.
I think the over is a good bet for sure.
47.5
turnover. Both quarterbacks have been susceptible to turnovers.
The ball over.
And usually when you can predict turnovers, it usually means overs are going to hit as well. With short fields and stuff.
So we'll get into the questions. I just want to quickly mention, by the way, side note. So the Odell Beckham shit got put away for 3 fucking days, and then Jerry just goes out there and says "Oh, trust me, we're still gonna sign him after this week, and you will have him for the playoffs." And I'm thinking in my head, I'm why don't we just why wouldn't you just surprise people by signing him next week? Why do you have to say that we're gonna surprise you by signing him next week? I don't understand that. Again, it creates a spectacle, but
situation.
Huh? You don't care.
I don't give a fuck about Odell Beckham at this point. Like I literally
He's
don't
good.
care. Like
He's
is
good
he?
though. He actually ranked really highly in reception perception last year.
Yeah,
Even like in the
before his
part-time role.
ACL tear.
Fair. No,
Second
like
in the same knee. I don't know,
no.
dude. I think he's going to be Des Bryant, T.Y. Hilton washed. Like, I don't think we're getting a guy this year. Maybe next year he's more fully recovered if he wants to play football and continue to play or whatever. I don't think the Cowboys are getting anything special. Anyways, he might draw some attention, which helps the offense a little bit. Anyways,
yeah. And you guys
Bear needs us for the most important week of the year. We are here. We went a little long on the intro, but anyways, Corey says playoffs. Let's go.
Let's go.
So Jer, this is what he needs out of us.
Kidding.
Chase and Jefferson are obviously locked in. Awesome that you have those two, definitely. If I start 2 running backs, he must start a tight end. 6 starters in total here. Here are his options. J.K. Dobbins, Jerick McKinnon, Latavius Murray, Michael Pittman Jr., T. Higgins, Elijah Moore, Dawson Knox, Hunter Henry. So if you don't start 2 running backs, like if you only start 1, you can start 2 wide receivers by the sounds of it.
So the only running back I'm fully locked into is probably Latavius, to be honest. And then
what?
You could maybe
start Latavius over J.K. Dobbins?
Given the workload, yeah, it's safer.
Oh, not a chance, 100%. Dude. Not Brett and Latavius with a 36-point over/under. Not a chance. I will take J.K. versus
his workload has just been way higher. But I mean, I understand there's more risk to J.K. So if you want to go with J.K., that's fine. But like, I'm still worried about the knee, dude. Like, I'm still worried about the knee.
But I see a very great matchup, which is not what Latavius has. He is a backup quarterback in a pretty decent defense.
For sure. It's a volume versus upside case, 100%.
Right.
Like, and again, I'm probably starting both of them regardless.
I'm not. I would start Dobbins, Pittman, and Higgins is what I would do.
There's 6 of them. He needs 6.
Oh,
I'm saying.
Okay, so I thought it was 3 for some reason.
No.
Okay, so Dobbins is in my lineup. I'll throw Latavius in just as the volume play then as well.
Pittman, Higgins.
McKinnon or Elijah Moore is where
Elijah.
You going Elijah over McKinnon, even with Zach Wilson?
Yeah. And then I'm probably going with
given
the snow, I'm going Henry over
Knox. I would go
Henry
over Knox given the weather and just it's Hunter Henry's a little bit more of a secure role in his offense. So I would say it's probably JK, Latavius, Pittman, Higgins, Elijah Moore, Hunter Henry. But McKinnon versus Elijah Moore is a toss-up. I don't know if you can start 3 running backs because he says if I start 2, I don't know if you can flex another running back. But if you can, then and you wanted to go with the security of the Chiefs offense that is probably guaranteed for 25 points at least against the Houston Texans. Jerick McKinnon's probably the safer play, but I think Elijah Moore, 10 targets last week on the field for like 90+% of the routes. Even though it's Zach Wilson, I think you should be able to trust Elijah Moore to at least get some targets in this game. And it's an easy matchup.
So no, with Latavius, like, did you say he had a hard matchup? Because the Cardinals like suck against the run.
It's not a hard matchup. Sorry, I meant like a bad game.
Oh, game environment. Okay,
because it's Colt McCoy versus Brett Ripp, and it's a 36-point over/under. That was before Russell Wilson was ruled out, so it's probably even less now.
Yeah, he said he can only start 2 running backs. So your 2 running backs are going to be Latavius and JK, and then you're going to start the 3 wide receivers and Henry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we're set then.
Yeah, I want to see actually if that line moves real quick. That's 36 still. Okay, so it's terrible.
Yeah.
Fucking game environment. Anyway,
well, it's the quarterbacks. That's why.
I know. What up, Goon Boy? I'm currently down 67-0 with my whole squad left. I'm assuming
how many guys did he have?
McCaffrey, Kittle, and Lockett or something.
Yeah, something ridiculous. I know somebody in my league is up like 67-3 right now in the playoffs, and I'm playing the winner of that matchup. And he had like half his team play on Thursday. He had like Geno Smith, Kenneth Walker, Tyler Lockett, George Kittle. Like, it was fucking crazy.
Yeah, that's insane. I had and by the way, in our underdog incubator draft, only 2 players I had playing were McCaffrey and Kittle.
Oh, he said no. Chase JJ and Chase are included in the 6 total. Okay, my fault.
Okay, so it's 4 players that he needs.
4
okay,
then.
So
okay.
I don't want to play tight end then. I'm playing JK. I'm playing Pittman, Higgins, and Elijah Moore.
I don't mind that.
Then you don't have to play a tight end. Because if you don't do that, you have to go JK, Latavius, Pittman, or Higgins, and one of the tight ends.
It's just Latavius and JK are close for me.
I think Higgins and Pittman would be my number 1 and 2 in this discussion. That's why I want to play both of them.
Oh, Higgins and Pittman absolutely would be.
Yeah, they're the 1 and 2 in this discussion. And then Dobbins would be my 3rd for me. And then
see, that's the thing. Like,
I would say
Dobbins
and Elijah Moore would all be kind of in the same range, but given the tiebreaker, I would want to go with those. Because
like
if you play Latavius, then you can't play one of those other wide receivers.
That's the thing for me. Latavius and JK are like really close for me.
If you wanted to play the volume play with Latavius, I'm fine. Given that you have Chase and Jefferson for upside, I don't think that's a terrible move because then you're not, potentially taking like 3 points out of J.K. Dobbins, which is absolutely possible. I just think given the matchup, even if he only has 15 touches, he's probably still going to at least have like 85 yards and have a good chance to get to the end zone.
Yeah, no, it's fair.
So I'll take Dobbins, Pittman, Higgins, and Elijah Moore is what I'd be doing there.
Yeah, I personally would just do that with Latavius, but I mean, they're fucking like coin flips.
True. They're not coin flips for me. I have Dobbins at 19 and I have Latavius at like 26. Like they're not that
You have Latavius too. You have Latavius too low then.
Don't care.
I have Latavius like 18 this week.
That's way too high for me. I know his volume is decent, but like
how is that way too high though?
Okay, by that logic, how high do you have James Conner? There's like a fucking fruit.
James Conner, I do have high. I have him inside like my top 14.
Okay, yeah, good, because then you're staying consistent then. Because James Conner literally has like 3 of his last 4 games, like 95+% of the snaps. Like he is he's bell cow.
He's been unreal, but like with Latavius, you're talking about 21 opportunities, 14 opportunities, 21 opportunities, 13 opportunities last week in a blowout.
I got to move him up. I actually had him even lower than that. So, I mean, I can't say for certain though that I would rather start Latavius Murray over Deontay Foreman. Legitimately.
Oh come on.
Deontay Foreman's in a game where the Carolina Panthers are favored. He's gotten 20+ carries in every game that the Carolina Panthers have stayed close.
Can I ask you something that'll surprise you? Guess how many targets Latavius Murray has had since his week 9 bye?
Probably like fucking 4 per game or something.
Yeah, 17, 3.5 per game, which like you don't expect from a guy like.
It's an awful offense, and he's a bad player. He's like the even worse version of like what Dalvin Cook and Zeke have become. Like it's even worse. He's like he has to score. He's going to average 2.5
against the Cardinals. Is a good shot he scores.
Yeah, it's true. It's possible. Anyways, I traded Keenan Allen and Terrace Marshall for a late first and a third 1 quarterback league. Need him this week, but figured there's no way I will ever get a first for him again. So I pulled the trigger at the deadline.
Yeah, Thursday. I don't mind that
I think
at all.
That's a fine move. In a 1 quarterback league, I mean, for a late first is not as valuable, but I still think you're probably likely to get like at least like a day 2 running back prospect that's pretty solid, or maybe a Josh Downs type. And it depends. I mean, it sounds like you're in a competitive window, but I think Keenan Allen is probably the type of dude that's going to, severely drop off a cliff after this year in value, because we already saw kind of the last, year so far has been, Keenan Allen dealing with an injury. And I think he's going to probably fall quite a bit in redraft leagues next year. Like I can't imagine he's going to go higher than like the 6th, 7th round.
No, I agree. He's probably going to have a little bit of the Michael Thomas effect on him, if I were to guess.
Yeah, I would say that's probably a really good comparison. Except Michael Thomas is 29 and Keenan Allen will be 32. So it'll be even like kind of more so. If he's like a 4th round pick, I absolutely will not be touching him with a 10-foot pole.
To be fair, on the flip side of that, like Michael Thomas hadn't played at all, whereas at least Keenan Allen's playing at the end of the season. So I think that,
and he looks good too. He looks like he's the same player. It's a very risky proposition. We've kind of seen like mid-round wide receivers, the ones that have busted really hard have been like the older guys, like the Allen Robinsons and the
values. The values.
Yeah, exactly.
Every fucking time, if they're a value in they're an old receiver going in like a later round than you expect,
there's probably a reason why they're a value.
Yeah. The only like one that goes against that theory would be like Tyler Lockett this year, but like Tyler Lockett for the most part was always like an easy spot in my opinion, because he was going like 9th round only because of his quarterback play, not because his play actually like fell off from an efficiency standpoint.
Right.
I mean, you can
also
argue
that's enough of a discount too, that even if he was washed, that it's a 9th round pick, it's not a 5th round pick or whatever. Like he could have been going.
Like looking back on it, as much as I like DK, like it's pretty crazy that there was like a 5-round discrepancy between them.
I liked both of them, honestly. They're 2 of my highest
6
owned wide receivers in Best Ball Mania. I had both of them over 15%.
Yeah, I respect that.
My opponents, of course, I never stacked them with Geno. I stacked them with Drew Lock, which was a dumbass move. So,
his opponents got a squad going, so he still has like. So
he had Geno. I mean, he had Metcalf and Lockett, which hurts him a little bit because they didn't have the greatest games.
Geno.
Yeah, and Geno. So I mean, Kittle had a great game, but I think they're probably still in a good spot there. He's like, I still got Josh Allen, Fields, JT, Dalvin, Aaron Jones.
How do you have 2 quarterbacks, but he has 1?
I don't know. Maybe he's just streaming. Okay, so he said starting lineup is quarterback,
Gotcha.
2 running back, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex. Also has Bills D and Carolina D. Who should I
So
start?
you're starting the Bills defense.
Yeah,
And
Bills defense is the better defense. They're in a bad game environment, relatively, like in terms of points being scored. So I would say the Bills defense is probably where you're going. Quarterback's Josh Allen.
Yep.
I know Fields is not in a bad weather game, but it's a bad matchup against the Eagles, and Allen's Allen. So
JT Dalvin.
JT Dalvin are my 2 running backs. My 2 wide receivers are AJ Brown and Waddle probably, and then Andrews is your tight end. He doesn't actually list a tight end spot, but if you have a tight end spot,
I'm
Andrews
assuming there is because the other guy does. And then
says,
your flex is probably James Conner.
Yeah, I would say the flex is definitely James Conner over Aaron Jones versus
I'm taking him
Conner
over Aaron Jones.
close, man.
Aaron Jones has been limited all week. Aaron Jones has a worse matchup. And I mean, James Conner, like we just kind of mentioned.
I got to move James Conner up. I didn't actually have him higher than Aaron Jones, but now that I think about it, I'd play him over Dalvin Cook too, James Conner.
That's like a tier for me. So I have like Dalvin, Zeke, Barkley, and Conner all kind of like in the same area right now.
Barkley way higher than that and Zeke a little bit lower than that, personally.
It's just the matchup for Barkley. I really don't trust the Giants against the Commanders.
But yeah, I personally would be going Allen, JT Dalvin, Conner in the flex, Brown, Waddle, Andrews, Bills D is what I'd be going there.
Yep, I dig that.
If I win and you make the right call, I'm sending a big donation.
Appreciate that.
So hopefully we helped you out there. High stakes league.
Let's go.
Missed a fantasy bye this week because I had to start that Zach Wilson bomb in week 11. I'm assuming that was one of the Patriots.
Was that the week he got benched?
Yeah, probably. Would you bench Waddle for a Drake London or Burks? Well, Burks is not playing, so you can't bench him for Burks. And Drake London, Marshawn Lattimore's gonna be back. I'm not. That's not a good enough piece for me to bench Waddle.
Yeah.
I am scared of the game. I think it's probably going to make me not want to start, Waddle as highly as I was going to. But I'm not sitting him for Drake London. Like, let me actually, because I haven't moved him since the stuff came out. So I gotta move Diggs down. Probably down to like wide receiver 7 or something. Like he's got to go down quite a bit given the weather in that game. And Waddle, like who would you start, Waddle or Terry McLaurin?
Actually, I think I have them back to back. Though I'll probably lower Waddle a little bit. I had him 1 spot higher than McLaurin. Okay. But like knowing now, I would probably have him closer to like that 23 type of range, maybe lower.
If Amari Cooper is healthy, who are you starting?
Amari.
Okay. Are you starting T. Higgins or Garrett Wilson over Waddle?
Garrett Wilson, and if T. Higgins plays,
I would play them both over Waddle as well.
But you see, the thing is, you won't know about Higgins yet.
Right. What about Devontae Smith?
I have Waddle higher, but like I can see, given the snow, that you would start.
What about Chris Olave?
I have Olave way higher.
Okay. So for me, I have Waddle at 22 now, right ahead of Mike Evans, Christian Kirk, Jerry Jeudy types. I think that's where he belongs given the weather situation.
I gotta adjust him a little bit too.
He's way too low.
I have him at 10, dude.
I had him at like fucking 19 for some reason.
Oh damn!
I would start him over DeAndre Hopkins this week.
Same. I have D Hop at like 12. I have him at. So let me lower Waddle a little bit. Would you go Michael Pittman Jr. or Waddle? Is the question.
I would start Waddle over Pittman.
Really? Yeah. Okay.
Pittman's got a great matchup though. I got to move him up a little.
That's what I'm saying. I had Pittman at 22. I'm actually gonna put him slightly above. Juju, I kind of got to raise. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I get it.
What do I do with Tyreek? Like, how far down do I put him? I might put him like below Lamb and AJ, but that's about it.
Yeah. Where do I put Juju? By the way, I get it. It's a quote unquote run funnel matchup, but Mahomes is literally playing for his MVP agenda. So I just doubt that they're gonna, fully fucking fade the pass.
Jerry Jeudy, Christian Kirk, guys like that. But I would start him over Marquise Brown, Deontay Johnson, DJ Moore, anybody like that.
Like in terms of Juju?
Yeah.
Yeah, got you. Okay. Yeah, like I just put him over Judy.
Yeah. So for what it's worth, we kind of just worked through that, like workshopped that ourselves. Waddle is the biggest probably loser, and same with Gabriel Davis. Like I'm probably not going to mess with Gabriel Davis at all. I would say, given the weather situation, especially as the big play guy in that offense. Like I'm going to move him down below. Like I would rather start Donovan Peoples-Jones. Would you start Chris Moore over him, over Gabriel Davis?
I would think about it in a PPR.
That's what I'm saying. I'd probably start Zay Jones over him. I'd probably start
Alec Pierce or Gabe Davis.
Gabe Davis. Alec Pierce or Gabe. I would start Alec Pierce over him. Legitimately.
I think I would too.
Yeah. I think like Gabe Davis needs to be out of your lineup. Like he's exactly the type of player that gets totally affected by this weather. So I probably would not mess with Gabe Davis at all.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you there.
Um,
I officially moved Tyreek to wide receiver 8.
I got him
The
at
other
5. I'll keep him pretty high.
well,
I think he gets
the
a lot of short targets. So
it's just I love the receivers this week. I had a top 8 as my elite tier. So now my elite tier, if you take out Watt or Hill because of the weather, would be Jefferson, Diggs, Chase, Adams, Lamb, AJ Brown, and Amon St. Brown.
so you'd start him Monroe over Tyreek if you had that.
Yeah, I would. He's not going to face a lot of Sauce Gardner because Sauce actually plays 94% of his snaps on the outside on the exact same side every play. And DJ Reed is also an outside corner. So if that's the case, I mean, Amon St. Brown's going to move all over the field. Amon St. Brown's going to be that primary slot. And if Detroit knows that they're going to try to move the ball in this game, it's going to be on the back of Amon St. Brown.
Fair. Yeah. Would you start Devontae Adams over Tyreek?
Yes, I have Devontae at 4.
Okay. That's interesting just given it's the Patriots.
New England, yeah.
Really,
No,
really good
it's a tough matchup, but I mean,
he gets too many targets. Yeah, it's too difficult. I mean, he had a bad matchup last week, and he busted in that matchup too. So
I feel that.
I got Christian Watson on my bench. Should I start him over Waddle due to the snow? That's relatively close for me.
I just moved Watson over him.
You would start Watson over Waddle, eh?
Yeah, because people look at the raw targets, but Christian Watson, I know Hayden made reference to it in their ranking show on Underdog. He actually is getting the wide receiver 22 type of usage. Even though he's been as efficient as he's been, he's still getting relatively decent usage. And you're mentioning again the Rams, although they've had this moniker as this elite secondary, elite pass defense, they have been relatively.
They're 17th against fantasy wide receivers. So
that's what I'm saying.
They've been trending downwards as Aaron Donald's been out and some of these guys, but. I agree with all that. Wide receiver 22 in usage makes Christian
not
Watson.
Feel good.
I have him at 27. Just Waddle's better. Like that's kind of what it comes down to.
I mean,
like,
Waddle last
even
few
in
weeks
bad
hasn't
weather,
been.
I would still rather play Waddle.
Waddle hasn't been the last few weeks. That's what I'm saying.
He's also been on and off the injury report the last 2 weeks.
For sure, but I mean, like, why does that change this week though?
Because he hasn't been on the injury report this week.
He hasn't been? Okay.
No. That's why I'm saying, like, Waddle to me, I would still play him as a top 24 receiver.
I have him at 24 on the dot.
I am at 22, so I would play. And if I didn't, I mean, I guess if I knew hindsight, I would have played Ayuk over him for sure. But like,
not sure if you saw, but Damien Harris already ruled out.
Already ruled out Damien Harris. Okay, so that means if Ramondre is out, then Kevin Harris is a guy that you can probably start in the who would you rather start if Ramondre is out, Kevin Harris or Leonard Fournette?
Oh, Fournette.
Fournette. Okay, so what about
I would prefer Strong
to Rex Burkhead with Dameon Pierce out?
I would probably go Burkhead. I would rather start Strong over Harris.
Really?
Yes.
What was the usage like? Wasn't it about even?
About even, but you're getting a far better player.
Yeah, Kevin Harris was like the goal line back though, right? So the goal line role is kind of important in New England. They run like exclusively in the red. They never throw in the red zone.
To me, if I'm going to make the call, who's more likely to be played on third downs? I think it would be Strong.
It's Strong. For sure, yeah.
Right? This reminds me of the debate that we had in the offseason of who should we take, Damien Harris versus Ramondre. Yeah. So if that's the case, I'm just going to take the more explosive player in a murkier situation, right?
Right. It is a bad defense that they're playing, though. So if they're able to move the ball well and have scoring opportunities, I believe Kevin Harris will be the guy that gets those scoring opportunities.
Yeah. No, I agree, but
definitely. Hopefully Ramondre just plays and we avoid this whole situation. Is Elijah Moore an auto bench with Zach Wilson at quarterback? No, he's not an auto bench. I think he's a top 45. I still have him as a top 45 receiver.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, top 45ish wide receiver. The matchup's really good, as we kind of mentioned. Dantzler's out for that defense, and they've already been quite literally the worst defense in the NFL.
They're playing the Lions, not the Vikings.
Fucking mix it up. They played the Vikings a couple
Either way,
ago.
The Lions are pretty bad against fantasy wide receivers also. So
brain fart. Yeah, that's what it was. But in terms of Elijah Moore in the Detroit Lions, I mean, they're still a top 5 matchup versus opposing wide receivers.
Yeah, let's do some names with Elijah Moore. Who would you rather play, Allen Lazard or Elijah Moore?
Elijah probably.
Who would you rather play, Donovan Peoples-Jones if Amari Cooper plays, or Elijah Moore?
DPJ,
100%.
Yeah.
Drake London or Elijah Moore?
London.
Adam Thielen, Michael Gallup.
Gallup.
Chris Moore, Elijah Moore.
Probably Elijah. Like, I don't trust Elijah or Chris at all.
Zay Jones or Elijah Moore?
Zay.
Okay. Alec Pierce or Elijah Moore?
Probably Pierce.
Basically the same type of option.
Pierce has just got such a good matchup, honestly. Like, as good as the Lions matchup is, bro.
It's been more stingy as of late, and Pierce, like the Vikings are awful.
I mean that because I think I was thinking of Pierce when I read the question, but yeah, like the Vikings defense has quite literally been the worst defense in football since week 10. Like since the Cowboys exposed them, like they have not recovered at all. And again, like some of that too is injuries, but I mean, what's changing this week? You know what I mean?
The same game, who would you rather play, DJ Chark or Elijah Moore?
Probably Elijah, but I don't mind Chark.
Yeah, he's not terrible. Like Elijah's like a borderline top 40 guy.
I'll retract that. I think I would go with Chark just because there's still an unknown with Zach Wilson there. Like I don't know, is Elijah Moore going to throw?
You don't want to be messing with shit in your fantasy playoffs when it matters most. Elijah Moore, if you want to bench him because he is absolutely a very risky play. Yeah. Absolutely. So if you have, let's say a Zay Jones or an Alec Pierce or a Donovan Peoples-Jones or somebody that's a little safer role-wise, I would say definitely play them over Elijah Moore if you're nervous.
Yep. No, I agree with you there.
Can only start two. Oh, yeah. So we already discussed all this stuff here. So start Elijah Moore over Knox and Henry. Yes, I would still start Elijah Moore over Knox and Henry for sure.
Yep.
He also said it's a tight end premium, but it doesn't really matter for those guys. They're not like huge target getters. How do you feel about Tua weather-wise? Tua's probably on my bench, personally. Like, I'm probably not messing with Tua this week.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Like, okay, let's play it with Tua, too.
I would still go with him over Zach, though.
Huh?
I'd still go with him over Zach.
Oh, yeah, I would as well. If that's your only other option, I would go with Tua. But, like, who would you rather play, Tua or Aaron Rodgers?
Well, now that I'm going to lower Tua, it's going to be Rodgers 100%.
Okay, Tua or Daniel Jones?
If I'm lowering Tua, probably Daniel Jones, though that is kind of gross because it's a tough matchup in its own right. Okay, let me just like fiddle with Tua and then see where I end up. So the question I have is Tom Brady or Tua?
I'd rather play Tom Brady.
I do too.
Yeah. Would you rather play Tom? What are the old quarterbacks you playing? Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers?
Rodgers.
Yeah, I'd play Rodgers as well.
Tannehill or Tua?
At 12. So he locked in for me at 12. Aaron Rodgers I have at 11, Tom Brady at 13, and then Tua at 14 is how I have it right now.
I have Tua at 15. That's what I was going to ask. Tannehill or Tua?
You have Tannehill that high?
Fucking look how gross the quarterback landscape is after quarterback 14.
It is, but I'd rather play Daniel Jones, Jared Goff, and I'd rather play Zach Wilson than Tannehill.
I'm worried about the Jets front getting pressure on Goff. That's what I'm worried about.
I am as well, for sure. But I would rather play the Chargers have been pretty good against.
It's fair.
I would rather play Zach Wilson and Jared Goff over.
I wouldn't play Zach Wilson over him.
I would.
I'm actually going to put Matt Ryan up there.
I would rather play Tyler Huntley over Tannehill too.
Yeah, that's probably fair. I'll go with Huntley. I wish I got Brock Purdy higher before the rankings.
I did. Yeah, I wish I did too. I had him at 19, but.
Question: where are you ranking Desmond Ridder this week?
I don't give a fuck.
But like outside of like quarterback 18, like you could make the argument he's anywhere.
I guess. I don't know. Where are you putting Andy Dalton this week is the other question.
Andy Dalton.
Like, would you rather play Derek Carr or Andy Dalton this week? Probably Andy Dalton, right?
Yeah, I just adjusted them.
Yeah. Heineke's not a terrible option either if he was available. I would rather play Heineke than some of these other guys.
Yeah, I don't know why he's buried in ECR, bro.
I would rather play Heineke than Jared Goff this week.
Yeah, I would probably rather play Heineke than like Tua, to be honest.
Really? You play Heineke over Tua? I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't go that far quite, but I have Heineke at 16.
Would you rather go Tua or Matt Ryan?
Dude, I'm not lowering Tua that much, man. Jesus.
He's quarterback 17. You just said you had him 15, no?
I have him 14. I have Matt Ryan at fucking 26. I don't give a fuck about Matt Ryan.
Why do you have him that low?
I don't care how good his
The Vikings suck.
I know, but he sucks also.
He does suck, but he might throw the ball 55 times.
I don't know. I'll live with that if that happens, but I ain't putting Matt Ryan anywhere near my lineup.
Wait, so who's the one you have right above Matt Ryan? Because we could do a bet.
I have Desmond Ridder higher than Matt Ryan.
I actually don't mind that.
I have Mac Jones higher than him too.
I'll do that. Mac Jones versus
the Raiders. You seriously want to do that?
Yeah, no, I do because I'm trusting the volume there.
Okay, we'll do Mac Jones versus. That's the most disgusting bet of all time. Start Deontay or wait on Higgins injury news.
Wait on Higgins.
I guess it's the 1 p.m. versus the 4 p.m. For some reason I thought Deontay was playing today, but no, it is. You should probably know Sunday morning, relatively speaking, if Higgins is going to play or not. I'm expecting Higgins to play. I think he will practice Friday. I think he's probably going to end up playing. So I would wait on Higgins injury news, and Hopefully you have a pivot of some kind. He said could pivot to Ramondre if he's healthy. If Ramondre's healthy, you're playing him over both guys.
Yeah, 100%. By the way, Croatia, 7 minutes away plus out of time from being the third place in the World Cup.
Yeah.
2-1 over Morocco.
Waddle, ETN, Garrett Wilson, pick 2.
You're sitting ETN.
Yeah, you're sitting ETN.
With Waddle,
with the weather, it fucks everything up with Waddle. I'm so used to just getting Waddle in my lineup.
You probably play ETN over Waddle with the snow.
Yeah, you probably do.
God, fuck.
Gross. I hate it.
I hate that. I hate that.
Yeah, and Jer, I would feel nauseous about starting Elijah Moore in the playoffs too, but the problem is if you could simply just start Jerick McKinnon over him, I would. But because if you start Jerick McKinnon or Latavius Murray or whatever, one of the running backs, then you also have to start a tight end in place of Pittman or Higgins. So it really screws you. You're better off just taking one weakness spot with Elijah Moore than 2.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Hayden Winks on Underdog has McKinnon over JK and Latavius Murray. That's why I have a headache. I mean, I understand where he's getting there process-wise. You got like an implied point total for Kansas City that's like 27, 28 points probably. But I think Dobbins is the better play. Like the Chiefs split touches with McKinnon and Pacheco quite often. And McKinnon, while he had a good week last week in terms of like usage and like the long touchdowns that he scored, I don't know, man. I think JK is the more secure workload, even though, he hasn't been the most secure guy in the world either.
Yeah, no, agreed. Sorry. I just I checked Twitter and there's some Pittsburgh guy that said
I saw there's not 7 quarterbacks or whatever that you're taking over Kenny Pickett. Dude, I can name 20 quarterbacks I would take over Kenny Pickett.
Then somebody just responded, Jetpack Galileo just responded, your show is bad.
Yeah, I saw that. Okay, you want to play this game real quick? How many QBs we taking over Kenny Pickett?
Fuck,
right,
okay.
Just give me yes or no, I'll keep count. Ready?
Yeah.
Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert, Dak Prescott, Joe Burrow, Justin Fields. Those are easy, right? Those are 7 right there. Deshaun Watson easily.
Yes.
Trevor Lawrence easily.
Yes.
Tua Tagovailoa easily. Tom Brady
easily.
I mean, he says factoring in age and contract stuff. So if you wanted to say you would take him over Tom Brady, whatever.
Sure.
I would still rather have Kirk Cousins, Ryan Tannehill, and Derek Carr though too.
Yes.
Those are all like the same. Geno Smith kind of fits in that same category.
I'd rather have Trey Lance.
Right. Yeah. Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers I'd rather have as well.
I wouldn't rather have Russell Wilson with his contract.
That's true. I guess the contract makes it a little bit
for
more
value.
I'd rather have Jared Goff.
Yeah, I would.
I'd rather have Jared Goff, dead ass. What about these ones are more interesting. Would you rather have
Bush,
Mac Jones? I'd rather have Mac Jones too.
Bush, would you rather have Pickett or Sam Howell?
Sam Howell. I had Sam Howell.
I know.
Quarterback coming out of school, so
it's just funny.
I mean, first round draft capital gives me Pickett for sure. But
no,
here's
I know.
An interesting one. Would you rather have Daniel Jones, Taylor Heineke, or Kenny Pickett?
Daniel Jones, not Taylor Heineke.
No,
I'd rather have Daniel Jones.
I'd rather have Zach Wilson or Kenny Pickett. I'll take Pickett, but I want it to be Zach Wilson. Here's another one. Somebody commented this. Somebody commented they'd rather have Brock Purdy than Kenny Pickett.
I probably would.
That's funny as fuck, man.
Malik Willis or Kenny Pickett?
Baker Mayfield or Kenny Pickett?
I'll pick it. Baker Mayfield, fucking
Sam Darnold.
Hey, Malik Willis or Kenny Pickett?
I'd rather Malik Willis. That ass, no cap. Malik Willis.
Dude, this guy said 7 quarterbacks. That's the entire list.
Yeah, I didn't even mention Lamar Jackson too. I didn't mention Lamar Jackson.
Kyler?
Kyler and Lamar Jackson both because they're injured. I didn't mention them. And Trey Lance. There's at least 20. At least.
I'm considering reporting this tweet for harassment.
Need 1 tight end and 1 flex PPR. Jamal Williams, Brian Robinson, Thielen, Alec Pearson, Joku, or Hawkinson. Okay, so the tight end is in Joku.
Oh fuck, yeah, both of them are top 5 this week though.
Would you play Hawkinson over these guys as your second option?
I think I would.
I think I would too.
I think I would. Fuck. Maybe Thielen.
I hate the matchup for Jamal Williams, especially in PPR. The one guy that I think gives me pause here is Thielen versus Hawkinson.
That's what I was gonna say. Maybe Thielen.
Yeah. Or Thielen is actually, I'd probably play
If it was a half PPR, I guess you could argue Byron Robinson as well. But in a full PPR, that guy's a fucking negative in the passing game. So
yeah,
no.
he is. Like, I would play Thielen, man, because you got with Thielen, because I made a bet on his alternate receiving yards because I know his over under is higher. It's 64.5 or 62.5 this week for Thielen and 52.5 for Hawkinson. So Vegas expects more out of Thielen. I would say go with Thielen, and also Thielen is more involved in the red zone despite Hawkinson being a tight end. So I would say give me Thielen and Njoku there, Beanie Weenie.
Yeah, no, I agree. Also, not to mention, you could seriously argue between the two Vikings pass catchers. Like they are like a toss up. Like I would say, like obviously the higher ceiling would be with Thielen because of the touchdown scoring ability. And if they get down to the red zone, other than Dalvin Cook, like Thielen's been like that guy. But like you can argue that in a full PPR that Hawkinson's getting a more sustained workload each week.
He is, but he gets like
he's gross.
Like Deontay Johnson of tight ends. He gets like 7 targets a game, and they're all 6-yard out routes.
I never thought I would say somebody has less juice in the open field than Dalton Schultz, but TJ Hawkinson has less juice in the open field than Dalton Schultz.
No, the person who has the least amount of juice in the open field is Cameron Brate.
Yeah, with someone that's relevant.
Yeah, but like he is like that guy has negative yards after catch over his career.
Tyler Higbee
has more juice than Cameron Brate.
I know, he fucking sucks.
Cameron Brate is the classic. It's 3rd and 6, and you need somebody to run to the sticks, curl, and fall after
the Jason Witten effect.
It's the Cameron Brate special right there.
Dude, Jason Witten running after the catch may be the funniest shit you could ever watch. It is hilarious. Because this guy just like, it doesn't look like he's moving full speed, but you could tell he's putting the effort in.
Yeah, exactly. I swear Pierre got red zone carries too. I mean, Pierre Strong was my RB like 7 in the draft.
Yeah, no, I love Pierre.
He's a good player, man. And Kevin Harris, I gave like a 7th round grade. Like he's not good. He's like one of the most north and south, not elusive runners I've ever watched in college. Like
Kevin Harris or Zamir White.
Yeah, I'd rather have Zamir White. He's a better athlete, but like for the most part, they were both the same type of player.
But you remember when Kevin Harris broke out like 3 years ago and everybody thought he was good?
Yeah, I do. Everyone was like, oh, he's the next like Josh Jacobs. I think Josh Jacobs was the name that people brought up for him.
Everybody compared him to Josh Jacobs. Everybody.
Yeah. Josh Jacobs, let's forget the fact that Josh Jacobs is like one of the most elusive runners in PFF history.
Oh, dude.
Coming out of college and his rookie season.
Dude, he's actually you see
he's a great player, man. I wish I got a lot of Josh Jacobs in drafts and
I got a decent
best ball and stuff. Like he was one of my highest drafted running backs, but I wish I got even more because like I knew it back in like March, May, and June. I was like, this guy's gonna go way undervalued because he's been kind of aggressively medium, but the guy can play. He had a better offense than he's ever played in, and even though it hasn't worked out like wins and losses for the Raiders, he's still been outstanding.
Oh yeah, no, the thing with him too, like I think that the one that goes mostly underreported was how much he was on the injury report between his rookie year and now. Like it's the 2 years in between or whatever the case was. It was 2 years in between or 1. 2 years, right?
He's been like a back.
He's in his 4th year, right?
RB1, low end RB, high end RB2 for like 3 straight years prior to this.
He'd be in his 4th year because they declined his option. No,
right. No, he's in his 5th year because he's a free agent this year. Oh yeah, I guess you're right. They declined.
Didn't get the So he's looking like the Josh Jacobs that went in the 1st round. That was this high prize rookie running back for the Raiders, and fuck man, somebody's gonna pay him.
Oh yeah,
may not be the Raiders, but somebody's gonna pay him.
Like we might be like, I would never pay a running back like Josh Jacobs because I would never pay a running back like Josh Jacobs.
Oh,
like,
I would never
draft a guy like Josh Jacobs in the 2nd or 3rd round this year, especially easily. Zach Charbonnet is basically the same type of player as Josh Jacobs.
I don't think he's as wiggly.
He's not, but he's bigger and he's a better
cone setter. Yeah. Oh yeah, no, that's fair.
So is that like I would easily, if I was the Raiders, just draft Zach Charbonnet in the 3rd round this year and not pay Josh Jacobs. Yeah. But there's a good chance that somebody, if not I could see the Raiders just paying him, to be honest, and then he doesn't go anywhere.
What round did the Raiders draft Zamir White? Round 4?
4.
Ew.
I know. Gross.
That's just the fucking lighting a pick on fire.
Let's say the Raiders retain Josh Jacobs. They give him a Mixon. Montgomery is another guy that could get retained by his team too.
What if the Raiders fucking replace Jacobs with Montgomery?
That'd be funny. But let's say the Raiders re-sign Josh Jacobs to exactly Joe Mixon's contract.
Yep.
Where is he going in redraft next year?
He's probably a 2-3, maybe a high 2.
I think he'll go in the 1st round.
I don't think he goes in the 1st round.
I'm not saying I'll draft him there. I think he'll go in the 1st round.
Well, I think at least 8 receivers go in the first round next year.
Yeah, that's fair.
So
I
like
think
8 wide receivers, a tight end, and maybe a quarterback or two might
I
go.
think 8 wide receivers will go in the first round.
Okay,
I think
maybe 6. Maybe 6. Off your head. Jamar Chase, Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs, Tyreek Hill, Cooper Kupp.
Jefferson.
Oh, Jefferson. So 7. Right? Those 7 are
And
pretty
maybe
much
AJ
locks.
Brown too.
I think him and Lamb are like
AJ
at
and
the
Lamb
start
will
of the
probably
second.
be 1-2 turn
Start of the
picks.
second, yeah. So you got that 7 for sure. You're gonna get probably, like your
Kelsey.
McCaffrey, your Kelsey, and I think a quarterback or two might go in the first next year. I genuinely do.
Ridiculous. I don't think.
I think like Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen might be a 1-2 turn pick.
I think in best ball that makes sense, but not in redraft leagues.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. More so, like I'm thinking of best ball.
Yeah, in best ball ADP, I can understand why somebody would want to take Mahomes.
Well, in best ball ADP, Mahomes is currently the 105 in the draft that they did.
Sense. But I still think the second we get to drafts, people are going to start talking it down. It's going to end up. I think what it should be, and the way it's always probably should have been, was that Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Patrick
I don't know
Mahomes,
about Lamar
Jalen
Jackson
Hurts.
this year.
Maybe not Lamar Jackson, but like Jalen Hurts too.
The top.
They're probably 2-3 turn picks, if not mid-second round picks.
Yeah, no, I would agree. That's where their appropriate value is. Also, shout out if you guys were watching FSE because we were all over the fucking elite quarterbacks this year. Like we literally said
all over the elite quarterbacks for the last 2 years,
right? Like it hasn't made sense why they go so low when they're that much of an advantage given the rushing factor. Like we're the big moniker, the late round quarterback. Obviously, JJ Zachariason coined that term. That was in the
he was
time.
Talking about Drew Brees and Matthew Stafford when he said
that was in the time when you got these statue quarterbacks that are giving you 2.3 points per game with their legs max, right? You're getting legit quarterbacks now that are getting you 7, 8, 9, 10.
They're giving you like low-end RB2 numbers with their legs.
Literally, though. Like fucking Jalen Hurts this year has what, like 750 rushing yards and 10 rushing touchdowns?
Yeah, dude, that's like
the RB14.
Yeah, that's like as good as fucking Dalvin Cook's been.
Literally, it fucking might be better. Let's be real, because Dalvin Cook has like 3 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, no, it's wild to me that like that's the discrepancy hasn't been considered, and like that's why even the guys that didn't work out, Lamar Jackson and Kyler Murray, the ceiling was always there for those guys to give you that. Like even though it was Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes that actually did it, those guys had just as much opportunity, and that's also why that third tier quarterback was also really appealing to me with Prescott, with Burrow, with Brady. Those guys had the like passing and Herbert too into that.
I think Herbert's going to be an incredible value next year.
He will, dude. How many games has Herbert played this year with Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Josh Palmer, and Austin
maybe
Eckler
3,
and Gerald Everett all on the field?
3 maybe.
Like it doesn't even. I bet it was like 2.
Not to mention, if I'm them, I'm adding a speed receiver.
I am too. 100%. Yeah. You have let Keenan Allen kind of ride his way out into the sunset with the Chargers. Let him.
He's not that good anymore.
Yeah, Mike Williams is a good player too. If you drafted Jalen Hyatt in the second round, that would make a ton of sense.
Who do you think is going to be the biggest value quarterback? Maybe other than like Trey Lance next year. Who do you think is going to be like the big value quarterback?
The biggest value probably Lamar.
Like you think he's going outside the top 6?
I think he will go. It's not necessarily where he goes among quarterbacks. I think it's where he goes relative to the rest of the ADP. I think he'll probably be a 6th round pick.
Yeah, I could see him probably going low because like I've even had
Justin Fields also could potentially be one of the better values too.
I think Justin Fields going to have a higher ADP next year than Lamar.
I do too. I'd be willing to bet that he has a higher ADP.
No, I'd agree with that. I think Desmond Ridder could potentially shock because, he can use his legs. That system's really nice in terms of the weapons there. He does stink, but like you don't have to be a good passer to be a good fantasy quarterback. Like
I don't think his legs are that impressive either, to be honest.
The only thing is he's like a
better runner than he is.
Who?
Sam Howell is a better runner than him.
Yeah, but I'm just saying in terms of like how they run their offense.
If they deploy him that way, obviously.
Ryan Tannehill under Arthur Smith had like 400 rushing yards and 7 rushing touchdowns in a year.
Yeah.
Like I think Ritter's a better athlete than Tannehill.
I think this is all a formality until Ryan Tannehill is the quarterback in Atlanta next year. I think it's a foregone conclusion it's going to happen.
That would be fucking hilarious.
Well, because see, here's the thing. I'm also hoping it happens realistically because I have Malik Willis on 3.
You're a Bucs fan.
Oh. No, I have Malik Willis on 3. And by the way, if that happens, I will be selling Malik Willis.
Oh, 100%.
Because Malik Willis is still not that good of a prospect. Like he's still a huge risk. It's like Trey Lance. If you thought Trey Lance was a big risk, like Trey Lance is like significantly better prospect.
If you think Anthony Richardson is currently a big risk, then you should not have any faith in Malik Willis.
Yeah. So if Malik Willis is if they're like, we're going to trade Tannehill for a second and a fourth to the Atlanta Falcons, and Malik Willis will be our week 1 starter. We're going to see what we have in him. It's a rebuilding year, blah, blah, blah. I'm selling Malik Willis because he'll be a second round startup pick.
I don't think he'll be that high because there were still people
a 2-3 turn.
There were still people arguing against Hurts this offseason.
That's true.
And Hurts
Lawrence
showed
and
way
Fields
more.
were still like 3rd round picks probably too. I would say Malik will be at least a 4th.
Top 5 round pick. Yeah, I was gonna say top 5 round pick, maybe. Yeah.
But dude, I don't know, man. Malik, especially Malik gets any more run this year, and maybe he runs some games as a starter and he runs the ball a ton. I don't know, man. I think people will talk themselves into 22-year-old quarterback. I guess the draft capital will hold people back though, for sure.
Draft capital and just the risk factor, because I mean, we're legitimately Hurts 2 years ago. It's a similar case. Well, because Hurts 2 years ago was what, like a 4th round pick. And he actually looked good in the spot starts that he had when he filled in for Carson Wentz.
Right.
So, like,
Malik would need to probably play this year a little bit more for him to actually rise a lot in ADP. If he had like a couple good games to close out, like if Tannehill gets injured this week and Malik Willis closed out the season 15 to 18 or week 16 to 18 and had like 2 games of 20 plus fantasy points, something like that, then maybe you get Malik Willis in like the 3rd round of startups or whatever. But either way, I still think he'd be a guy that, you probably spent a 14th round startup pick on, like I did in our Tone Setter Truthers League. And you could at least get 5th round startup value, like a 2024 first out of him.
Yeah, probably. How was my quarterback 1-2? Yes, sir. Zach Ertz got negative. That's another negative juice tight end for sure.
He's going to be interesting. Like next year, I'm not going to touch him with 10-foot pole. ACL tear, fucking 34-year-old tight end. The question is like how McBride will probably be a guy that I have heavily invested in, to be honest. I'm probably going to draft him a lot in basketball because he'll be like a tight end 24 or something in ADP probably.
And as long as Malik isn't the starter, I think like Chigakonkwo has really showed out in the last couple of weeks. If he finishes the season strong, like he's an athletic tight end. He got drafted. He's a young player. Like I want to see like how he develops. Maybe he ends up being what they wanted Jonnu to be.
Yeah. Also, by the way, for tight ends next year in Best Ball Mania 3, I seriously, now 2 years of playing these big tournaments,
3 tight end builds.
Strategy is either you grab 2 in the top 12 of ADP or you grab 3.
100%. Because like,
you need Goddard and Schultz this year, or like, Kelsey and Goddard or something like that. Or you needed 3. You needed Freiermuth, Hunter Henry, and Evan Ingram or something like that.
Well, the thing is, right, is we say that now, and then anytime we're in a draft, we're like, oh, this wide receiver value that's falling. Oh, I can't take this tight end. And it happens. It's psychological.
Of your 8th wide receiver
100%.
Tight end is way, way more important.
Well, I also think given this year, I mean, maybe the ADP does adjust itself. So that is a fair argument against it.
Huge swing this year in ADP.
Yes.
Best Ball Mania 3.
I was going to say potentially taking 2 quarterbacks early and then not touching and having to add a 3rd.
Well, I mean, shout out to Mason when he was doing his psychotic 24-hour live stream that Mason did over at Fantasy Flock. When I went on with him, he said most of his QB builds have been 2 elite quarterbacks. He's like, I don't want to draft 3 quarterbacks. And he's like, I believe the same, kind of strategy I just said for tight ends is kind of also applicable for quarterbacks, because some of my best quarterback teams right now are Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, Tua teams, or Justin Fields, Kenny Pickett and Zach Wilson teams, even though like they weren't like the greatest. It's like, if you're going to not draft a quarterback early, you got to draft 3. And if you are drafting a quarterback early, you should draft another one in the top 12 so you don't have to draft 3.
Yep. Or like if you have a very, very good sense that like you can hit on again, it's risky, but I mean, who would be like another quarterback that went low that like we kind of saw the upside case going in, like, because Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields, everybody kind of knew what was going on. I mean,
Tua was a good example because of the offense.
Tua was the example there, and
Kirk Cousins and Derek Carr were also kind of examples of that too.
I mean,
I got a lot of Tannehill. Tannehill was a guy I drafted a ton of in like 3 QB builds because I just figured he'd be safe, he wouldn't lose his job, and he'd probably be a top 20 quarterback by the end of the year and give you some spike weeks.
Also, the staple of 3 quarterback builds was Deshaun Watson super late.
Yeah, that is facts. I have I actually got to look right now because I have I think one of my best advancing best ball teams is I got a unique build here, which is Tua, Zach Wilson, Deshaun Watson as the QB build, and I was able to advance Najee Harris into this with Najee Harris, Tony Pollard, Ramondre Stevenson, Jerick McKinnon is the running back build that I have here. So it's kind of an interesting one there as well.
Kind of nuts.
Okay, locked in. JK, Chase, Jefferson, Pittman, Higgins, Elijah Moore. Let's fucking go. Going for back-to-back championships. I wish I could say the same. I'm going to have to go get my trophy engraved next week because I got to give it away and my trophy's going to be out of my background, but I will be fighting next year to get it back. But unfortunately, the other good thing though is that like they told me if I won again that they might kick me out of the league. So
Really?
yeah, they're like if you win 3 straight championships, like you can't play with us anymore.
Who said that to you?
Amir, the commissioner.
That's kind
I'm
of
like
fucked up.
scared to compete as hell, but like at the same time, I kind of understand it. Like this is what I do all the time. Like it's kind of fair that I have an advantage over other people. But at the same time, I'm glad I lost because now they're like, oh, he's not, he's human. He can lose.
And not to mention, like, doesn't that already get combated with the fact that nobody wants to fucking trade with you?
Yeah, a little bit.
That's what happens to me
this
in my
year,
league.
This year, especially, man. Like there's, some people, everybody has the same stigma around trading with me that they don't want to give me a great deal.
It's
But
the same thing with
some
me.
people in my league will just straight up not answer my like messages if I
It's
want
the
to trade.
same
Like they
thing
were
with
just
me.
like they will not trade with me. Period. Doesn't
Brother.
matter if I'm getting hosed.
Brother, anytime I message certain people in my league, I'll literally get a response sometimes like, what do you know that I don't? Or
Yeah.
why do you want to trade with me? Or why do you want my player? No, I'm not trading with you. No, you're trying to fleece me. You're a fleecer. Like, I don't want to deal with that. Even though like I haven't made any fucking fleece deals, they just
I
have
have to
that
be
stigma
100%
in their head.
transparent with them and say, I want this guy because of this reason, and I'm trading you this guy because he helps. And I have to make trades that are completely mutually beneficial, or I won't even get a response. Like I can't, I'm sure you guys have sent out trades where you're like,
thing.
I don't think he's going to accept that, and it'll get accepted. That will never happen in my
Never
league.
happened to
No
me.
way. That will never
Never.
happen anymore. In previous years, sure, but not anymore.
Like
But now
sometimes
I
I'll
have
have
to tell
to.
them, maybe it's a wide receiver for running back trade. And I'm like, your running back core is a little bit weak. I could give you this running back for this wide receiver. They're about equivalent value. And I'll tell them where I have them ranked the rest of the season and everything. I'm like, I'm not trying to hose you. This is exactly where I'm at.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's a fucking joke.
Fantasy
honestly.
fleece exchange. Toronto Dave says. That's why we like playing in leagues with you guys, because at least you understand how we think. And you're like, why we're trading for certain players. Rather than like our league mates, they're aware of, that we do this, but they're not aware of which players we're trading for and like all the strategy that's behind it. So, opponent had Fant scored 16. Also, I had a lot of 3 tight end builds with Noah Fant in them too. And I have Purdy scored 18. I need a big game from Njoku. Yeah, hopefully Njoku's in a good spot today for sure. I would say if you guys are building a DFS lineup today, Njoku's absolutely the tight end I'm using.
Yeah, no, I agree. Shout out Palmer from Brampton. Yeah,
I didn't actually know that. I knew he was Canadian. I didn't know it was Brampton though.
I'm curious if he played on the Bulldogs back in the day, because like that's where Mechie played too. But
yeah,
I know
he's
Palmer's
a little bit older than you.
He's a year older.
Like my age, I believe, isn't he?
Palmer's a 99, I believe.
Is he a 99? I thought he was my age.
I think he's a 99. I'm pretty sure. He could be a 98 though.
Palmer was born September 22nd, 1999. So yeah, he's a 99.
Yeah, I'm curious if he was on those Brampton teams, because I just remember Mechie because fucking this guy would get end around, jet sweeps, fucking like everything. He was playing fucking slot back for them, and he would basically just run like get outside runs every fucking play because he was faster than everybody.
Is he a wide receiver in high school?
He's a wide receiver / running back, but that was like literally like grade 9, grade 8. Like that was like even because he moved to the States for high school. Like he moved to the States, then he got his offers. He was like a 4-star recruit. And then I remember when he committed to Alabama, like somebody mentioned that in our class. They're like, oh, Canadian John Mechie. And then I messaged him on Facebook. I'm like, congrats on the commitment to Bama. Because I'm like, holy fuck, I actually like remember this guy.
Yeah.
Because we all had fucking like I played fantasy football with him and a couple of the Toronto guys one year.
That's hilarious.
Literally.
But yeah, Josh Palmer is from Brampton. That's where he's from.
I believe I have Njoku and Schultz back to back, and that's fucking close for me. Njoku or Schultz for you?
I play Njoku.
They're both top 4 for me.
He has a great matchup, Schultz, but I'm playing Njoku's usage is just much better.
No, I think I agree, and I'm gonna adjust that because I mean, fucking Njoku is just. We talk about not having juice, and I mentioned Dalton Schultz. Njoku's the exact opposite of that.
Yeah, and Njoku is exactly like Kittle, honestly. Like Kittle showed you on Thursday why you never take him out of your lineup, because he can do that. And Njoku's the exact same way. He's going to have like his 6-point games here and there, but he can have 28 points or whatever if you wanted to.
By the way, Payne, I am so upset because before I could adjust him, Kittle got locked in as my number 7 tight end in my rankings this week, and he for sure would have been in my top 5 if I were able to adjust.
Oh, I put him. Where did I have him?
Probably 5, maybe 6. Respectable.
I had him 3. You never sit George Kittle, man. You never sit George Kittle.
Over Njoku or Andrews?
Both. Or sorry, not Andrews. I have it 2. I have him
Okay.
Kelsey, Andrews, and Kittle. That's how I had it.
Yep. No, I agree. I trade with you, Danny. Had good deals. Yeah, I appreciate that, brother. Fantasy fleece
I've never
exchange.
heard anybody say that about Danny, by the way.
I have
Danny,
good deals.
I'll say this. We've made so many deals. Like, I can't say that you never make good trades, but your first offer is always bad.
Debatable.
It's always the first
Recently?
offer. I would say if you just made your first offers 10% better, then more people would trade with
Okay.
you.
Well, I got knocked for offering Kittle a 1 and a 2 for Kyle Pitts. I got knocked.
By the way, when Danny did this spawned a very lengthy discussion in our
I got knocked for it.
Centers League. I don't know if I think Brian's in there, so he probably would have remembered this.
I got knocked for it.
The reason I
Kittle
knocked Danny for it is because the guy he offered to Kyle Pitts is 1 in 13. So
yes, but
theoretically, and I know Danny's going to say theoretically, at face value standpoint, it's a good trade. Fair.
Yes.
But
also,
people are lazy. When you're 1 in 13, you'd rather just keep Kyle Pitts unless you get a Godfather offer. And George Kittle is not the type of player as a 28-year-old tight end that you want on a 1 in 13 team.
I get that, but my rebuttal as a person offering the deal is I see him get added to the trade block. Nobody else has straight pick equity in that league, as you know. It's between 3 guys that has all the fucking picks. So I'm like, okay, in terms of pure equity, Kittle can match a first. I'm giving a first and it's a second. So in my mind, in a tight end premium, I'm giving him back a really elite option, and I'm giving him overall probably two firsts and a second, maybe even 3 ones because it's a premium of value. So that was my perspective. And then I see, I'm like, oh, I'm fleecing. I'm like, I didn't even mean to show it as a fleece. Like, that's not even what I intended.
Reason inherent value of Kyle Pitts in a tight end premium to a rebuilding team.
No, I get that.
Extremely high. That's why I was like, there's no way he would accept that. And that's why I kept turning it back on you. And I was like, if you were in his position, would you accept that deal?
And that's why I rebutted by saying I wouldn't have had him on the block to begin with.
Right. But I kept saying, answer yes or no. Would you accept that deal? And you never said no. You couldn't say it. I was like, I know you would never accept that deal. You would just rather keep Kyle Pitts.
My only question was like, why would I have him on the block in the first place?
Right.
Because I know the value, the offers I'm getting are not going to be geared towards what I would be looking for anyways.
And what Flett said was he's always willing to trade anybody if the price is right. And again, the price.
Yeah, if it's looking for a Godfather, sure. Yeah, 100%.
The price was theoretically decent. But the other thing is that you had to remember is when you give somebody a 28-year-old tight end, they are then obligated to sell that player right away because at this point in the fantasy playoffs, you have that time that you want to sell players because contenders need pieces to put them over the edge. And then I went through and I listed everybody in the playoffs tight end. And yes, it would have been upgraded for some teams, Kittle for the guy, but not, worthwhile of giving up like a first round pick or something.
Fun fact, I actually offered him to Spencer right before the week. And he's like, oh, I don't know if I can touch my future capital. And obviously, Kittle would have been fucking huge this week. So
yeah, no, it's true. It definitely would have worked out for a lot of teams. It could have helped me. I have Goddard. I mean, if we made it, and you offered me several times Kittle and a 2 for Goddard and a 1. I'm like, at face value, that's a decent offer. I think Goddard's good. I also have Hurts too, which makes it.
That's fair. You got the implied value there if he does score. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
no, I get it.
Anyway,
I just have to make my joke because Kittle had such a good game.
Yeah, for sure. And by the way, so for those of you guys that are in this live stream, we are going live for a regular live stream immediately after this at 12:15 because there's a game on at 1 o'clock. And you guys know we go live before every game over here. So we're going to sign off of here. If you guys are watching this back and you wanted to be a part of this one where we kind of just shoot the shit, go in depth on everybody's questions. What's up?
Sorry. I just think Stevenson just got ruled out.
Okay, so that will probably impact those of you guys with start set decisions today because you'll probably have to play somebody different potentially.
Can I need to search this now.
Anyways, we're going to sign off of here. We will see you guys in 5 minutes. If you want to keep joining us, I just asked that those of you guys that got your questions answered in here, maybe refrain from it so we can get to some, free questions, people that are leaving them in the regular live stream. That's why we have a whole separate live stream for you guys. So real quick, I think we just got why the top
facts.
One side of the bracket.
Facts.
Is it my side?
My side, bro. Have you seen my side? It's
me.
You
mean in the listener Dino or in the tone?
No, in the Patreon
redraft. The redraft league. The redraft
Patreon league. Redraft, bro. It's me, Sharkbait, and Brian Harris all on the same side of the bracket.
Oh yeah. Oh, let's go. I get to play Flett next week. Perfect if I win.
Yeah.
I'd like to make the championship. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, no, literally.
My team is like the definition of like a ragtag group of misfits if I were to win the championship. Because I've been running a 0 RB since Javonte went down, piecing together running back production. But anyways, we're gonna head off of here. See you guys in like 5 minutes if you want to join us for the other one.
For sure.
Take it easy.